Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 11 of the Canary Room this season, 2023 breeding season. Before we start, the usual thanks, a huge thank you to Keith Ferry for all of his time, and Margaret, all of his time, his advice, his help in putting together what I think was another cracking show, and you seem to have thought so too. And a massive thank you as well to Russell Sykes. If you haven't checked those 2 episodes out, and if you're new to the channel, and some of you are, we do on the road trips. So we've just been to see Russell Sykes and Keith Ferry. One who has done everything in Canaries, and one who's done loads of things in dogs and is looking forward to achieving lots of success in Canaries, having already had some success. Whilst I'm also on... a huge thank you to everyone who's jumped on my personal page on Facebook. This time last week, I was recovering, having taken part in the Macmillan Mighty Hike. Now, I went with a very good friend of mine, best friend, a chap called Chris. Lots of you have said lots of nice things, and many of you have donated as well to Macmillan, which in the UK is a cancer charity. So 26, just under 26 miles, hiking round Ullswater in the Lake District, 3,000 feet, I think, in terms of up and down and round and up and down, and I was knackered. But I did it. So look, what have we got in store today? Well, it's coming towards the end of the breeding season with the Canaries. So we'll have a look at the fifes. I have singled some of the fifes off as a start to look and see which birds I think might make the show team. So that's the fifes. We've, of course, got some good news with the Norwich, which is always a nice thing to say with Norwich Notebook. We've got the new colour corner as well, of course, and wouldn't be the Canary Room without the Redpoll diaries, would it? So look, you know what to do, everyone. Excuse me a second. Grab yourself a cuppa. Sit back and enjoy the show. So with the fifes, this year, it's been an okay season. I'm going to say okay. Couple of the hens just didn't lay. Now, we had a couple that we kept over from last year. I think we had 3 from previous years that hadn't laid before. 2 of them were relatively young bred. I wanted to give them another go. Didn't work out. So actually, in terms of breeding hens, we didn't have that many. Of the breeding hens we've got, as is always the case with livestock, some have done well for us, some have done less well for us. That will be a consideration. Quality of bird is important, fertility of bird is important, and rearing skills is important as well, and that will be a consideration in the selection of young. I've just taken away 10 young today, so they've come away from their parents. I'm weaning them all in a double breeder, which I wouldn't normally do, but as we get towards the end of the season, they've been with their parents probably a week longer than they needed to be. They are picking up hard seed as well, so the risk of putting them all together, I think, is low. So 1 or 2 birds starting to take my eye. I have singled off 4 or 5 fifes now from the first round to have a look at. A couple more sort of starting to take a nice little bit of shape. Got quite a few light birds. Now, anyone who keeps light birds will tell you that they change an awful lot. So, I'm flabbergasted really to see on Facebook at the moment people getting rid of this year's young way too soon to be doing any of that. Certainly UK birds bred way too soon. So, I've got a number of hens that are just either incubating or just building up and just laying. A couple of things. I've also moved some of the cockbirds and some of the hen birds just out of shot here in this top cage. So I'd noticed a few flight feathers are starting to drop. Birds aren't going to breed. They're not going to have fertile eggs, and they're not going to rear chicks. It's too much stress on them when they're going into a molt. So, rather than being sort of greedy and chasing numbers, I've just popped them into a flight cage up here. So there's most of the dark birds up there, which have been really quite disappointing this year for me. I have got 1 young dark bird on the sticks. I've got a couple of blues on the sticks as well. But been quite disappointing. hopefully we'll have a final flourish. So very indebted to Gerald Spencer, who I popped over to see a couple of weeks back, and I managed to pick up an unflighted buff cock off him. I needed a dark buff cock. I was hoping to pick it up after the breeding season, but he let me have it. So I've paired it with a couple of my dark yellow hens. One of them's down on eggs, and the other is just starting to take an interest. So it'll be quite late for those birds, but we'll see if we can't get maybe one or two dark young away there. So really, I think we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hens still on eggs. I haven't candled them. I've seen some of them actually, and they look full. But and then we've got another probably 4 or 5 just building up. So season with the fifes sort of, really starting to come to a close now. So that's our fifes. Let's go. Where should we go? I tell you what. Let's go to our Norwich. It's time for Norwich Notebook. Well, look, Norwich Notebook, Heartbreak Corner, call it what you want. Do you know, so far it's been okay with the Norwich. We've got 2 that are away now that are feeding themselves. One of them I really quite like the look of. That's quite a nice bird. We've got another 3 which are sort of feathered up and still with their adopted parents. So they're still being fed, but I have seen them pick up. I'm in no rush to take them away. Absolutely no rush whatsoever to take them away. So they will stay there for as long as necessary, as long as needed, until I'm absolutely certain that they are, feeding themselves. And then when they do move away, what I've done with the pair, or the couple of Norwich that have got away, is I've given them sort of egg food, and I've given them uni-feed as well, just so they've got, as well as soak seed and the likes, just so they've got enough there to keep going. I have, following Keith's advice, I've given them a little trim round the vent, just to make sure that they don't get clogged up. Heartbreak and happiness really with the Norwich. The heartbreak was I had 3 off a pair just behind me actually. She's gone down again on X. I had 3 off that pair hatched out, and they hatched out, and I put them under my best feeders, the grey wings. There was just something not quite right with the chicks, and they were, I don't know what it was. They got them to an age. I mean, they started off feeding them brilliantly. And I thought, here we go. It's another 3 Norwich away. Don't know what it was. Moved them in the end under another hen, but nothing. They were. I started, topping them up because they just weren't feeding. And actually, I've got some young fifes under this pair now at the moment, and they're not doing a great job with them either. So it might just be that they've had enough now, which is fair enough. So this time of the year, anyone will tell you it's a little bit as birds go out of condition and start to move out of the breeding cycle. I don't have that many birds in the canary room, so you're looking for space. I have got another 3 Norwich underneath a pair of fifes that have fed quite well for me. And you'll notice that not only have we got Norwich, but we've got allied to white Norwich. So we've got 2 feathered up, one of which I really quite like actually, and I don't mind either of them, but one of them with the sort of the lighter head, I really quite like. So we'll see how they develop. Certainly won't be counting my Norwich just yet. There are another 3 in the nest. And we've got the hen here down on fertile eggs, and we've got another couple of Norwich hens down on fertile eggs. Now I've left their eggs under them, so whether they'll rear or not remains to be seen, but I'm going to give them the chance to. So yeah, all good with the Norwich, and well, let's go for more good news. It's the Redpoll Diaries. it's not a term you hear very often from me, is it? Good news and the Redpoll diaries. Gonna say, you know, with the Redpolls this year, that there has been heartache, of course there has. But so far we've done okay. We've done okay. I had a little bit of a challenge last week when sort of the pair of normals that were on eggs, their eggs started to disappear. Now the eggs were birded, and that was a bit of a concern. So I looked in the morning, there were 4, and there had been 6, and then I looked a couple of hours later and there were 2. So I didn't take any chances. I took those 2, I put them under the coalbolts. Similarly, the pair here in this top corner, the agate hen and the pied cock, not really sitting. She was sitting actually, and she sat this time and hatched, but young hen didn't show any signs of feeding. So I moved those young, and what I ended up with was sort of 8 birds under one pair, which is way too many. So I shuffled a few around. I put 2 under the grey wings, lost them unfortunately. I've got 1 with the in a nest with Norwich, which sounds crazy until I show you this nest here in cage 71, which has got a Norwich, a Fife, and a Redpoll in it, and the pair in there have reared them all. So it might sound crazy, but it's worked. So hopefully the hen in there is quite a good feeding hen, touch wood, so hopefully she'll continue to feed that. So in terms of Redpolls at the moment, there's 3 pieds down here in the bottom flight and 3 coalbolts which are away feeding themselves. In here I've got another 2 pieds which are just starting to pick up, and then there is what I think is a normal. I say I think, I'm not 100% certain. I think it is. It's come, I think, from this pair up here, which is why I'm a little bit confused. And then there is another pied in here which is feeding itself. So that's what, 6, 10. That's 10 Redpolls. Doesn't stop there, because there are another 6, 1 in one nest and 5, I think, in another nest. At least I think they're 5 Redpolls. There might be a siskin in there. Not 100% certain yet. Say I'm not 100% certain. It's either a siskin or it's an agate Redpoll. So a siskin egg did go in there, but not everything in there hatched. So yeah, so that's the sort of Redpolls, really a story of a good couple of pairs, and that can make and break the difference, make and break the season for you. You know, a good couple of pairs. The cobalt pair have been so far really good. This pair here from Kenny Masterman have been really good. This pair here have produced for me. The older pair of pieds, I've actually moved them into another cage and given them a couple of different nest sites. There's a little bit of activity, but nothing really to write home about. So I think in the end, I think we decided that we had 5 pairs of Redpolls, and we potentially have got young off 4 of them, 4 of those pairs. So not bad at all. I think, you know, where we'll go now is to our white line. And it's been quite interesting, the white line, certainly over the last few weeks or so. So you'll know that we've got sort of 3 pairs really of birds in the white line now. The pair in cage 74, which is a variegated white cock and a variegated yellow hen, they've had quite a few eggs, but none of them have been fertile yet, which is a bit of a concern. It might be that the cock is a little bit immature. I'll certainly keep him because he's fed well for me. I'll give him another chance next year. It might just be that pair doesn't quite bond. So I'll try him with another hen next year and see if he manages any success there. So that's that pair. The pair in 73, which is the sort of dark tail marked hen. she's not been a fantastic feeder, if the truth be known, so I've moved her chicks. I've got 3 off her, which are under the grey wings at the moment, which I am topping up. We have got a chick off her, so we can see with all the chicks that have just taken away, there is a white there with a little mark underneath its cheek. And in the nest in cage 72, as well as the Norwich, we've got another little white fife, and it looks like a pure white fife, which is excellent. So that's 3 with certainly cage 72 are built up. I think they'll go down again for the final time. So hopefully we'll get a couple more from there. In terms of white ground, we've got variegated fawn, we've got a couple of self-fawns. So we've got a few white ground bears, we've got a couple of blues as well. So not too bad. A couple of you mentioned the borders. What's happened to the borders? Well, for many weeks, the borders were doing nothing, and actually I thought I was going to lose the hen. She was just sort of almost lying on her side in the cage, which was bizarre. She's then gone and laid 4 eggs, so I will set them under a feeder pair and see if they're full or not. I'm not sure if they will be, to be fair, but we'll give them a chance. So that's the sort of the whites in here. Let's have a quick trip to New Colour Corner. So New Colour Corner this time round. Well, as I say, the pair that I've got, which have they've been brilliant for me right up until the last week or so, and they seem to have gone off. I have got some new colours away. They are now in the other room. We can see them here. They're on the red carafill. I've put them on carafill, and basically it goes I've put it in the water just to make sure that they all get it. It goes everywhere. I don't really want colour food in this shed, although I will have colour food in here for the Norwich, but I'll only put that in the egg food. So I think we've got 8, which is not a bad number. Really, we've got 7 off one pair and 1 off another pair. The old hen, I think she's 4 or 5 years old now. She's on a red ring. She's sat on the nest, but not really done anything. So what we've got is we've got enough genetic diversity to keep the grey wings going for next year, and that's all we need. I have got in there at the moment, I've got a couple of the feeder hens with a grey wing cock, just to try and see if anything comes from. But to be honest with you, the heat, I think the birds have just lost a bit of interest, which is fair enough. One thing I must say, and I don't want to tempt fate here, is despite the heat, the Exalt and the prevention and the work that we've done in the room to prevent mite seems to have worked a treat, because normally at this time of year you would expect to see mite everywhere, and there aren't any, which is fantastic. So I'm well happy with that. I'm not going to get overconfident about it, but I am really happy about it. So that's our new colours. Well, listen, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for watching. If you've got here till the end, thanks very much indeed. Next time out, we will have another episode of the Native Diaries. We'll have another episode probably of the Canary Room, and then we're going to take a couple of weeks off for the summer. And then, you know, the birds by then will have sort of finished doing what they're doing, and we'll have a look at them again in the through the molt and as we get ready for the show season. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. If you've enjoyed the show, hit a like and pop a comment down below. I always try and respond to all of your comments. If there's anything you'd like to see, please do get in touch. I know a number of you have messaged me on here saying about, can I do a show on water sloggers? I don't keep them. If I can find somebody who'll do a show, yes, absolutely. You know, the Canary Room is not big enough to keep too many varieties. I have to keep telling myself that. So listen, until next time, everyone, take care.